I was ready to laugh off the idea of XRP hitting $100 until I stumbled on an Amazon clue that kind of stopped me in my tracks. Now, this story has it all. It has a secret lawsuit twist, a millionaire math bombshell, and a personal crypto experiment that I never saw coming. Now, hi, my name is Nick if you're new to the channel, and I am, yes, an XRP investor who's been in the game since early 2020. Now, I've weathered every storm from the SEC lawsuit to wild price swings. But what I found recently made me rethink everything that I thought I knew about XRP's future. Now, it started with a crazy question. Could XRP be the next Amazon? Sounds ridiculous, right? Well, Amazon is a trillion-dollar company. XRP is just a cryptocurrency. But this isn't some fluffy hype. I dug into the data, and I even tied something totally new, at least in the crypto space, as a bit of a result. So, by the end of this video, you're going to see why some people, myself included, are looking at XRP in a whole new light. And here's a spoiler. It might actually make you feel a lot better about holding on to those XRP bags. So stick around, because I promise you this, it's not your typical when moon story. So picture this, right? I'm scrolling through crypto Twitter one evening and I see this headline from an analyst named Nick Anderson. He basically says that XRP could follow Amazon's path and eventually hit $100. Honestly, my first reaction was, here we go again with the crazy predictions. I mean, I've been in XRP for a while and I've heard $10, $50, $589, if you know, you know, right? $100 didn't sit right. It, sounded, or didn't sound as, I guess, outlandish as $589, but still, I needed to see the logic behind this one. Now, Nick's post kind of caught my attention because it wasn't just wishful thinking. He compared XRP's chart to Amazon's early days. Now, I remember Amazon in the 90s and early 2000s. It was the example of dot-com bubble stock that crashed and took forever to recover. But recover it did. Boy, did it ever, right? Now, according to Nick Anderson, Amazon's stock took nearly 3,800 days, that's over a decade, to break its old all-time high from the dot-com era. So imagine holding a stock for something like 10 years and it just is a bit meh. Then suddenly it rips from around $5 to over $200 in just a few years. Well, that's Amazon's journey in a nutshell. And here is the kicker. Amazon also had regulators breathing down its neck at one point. This is where the story gets a bit juicy, right? I saw another crypto commentator, 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗔𝗡𝗧, saying that Amazon was actually sued by the SEC, just like Ripple, the company behind XRP, was. Now, that sounded a bit wild. I had never heard of an SEC lawsuit against Amazon before, so being the curious nerd that I am, I did some digging. And it turns out that Brad was a little off with the details, right? Amazon wasn't sued by the SEC, but the SEC did investigate Amazon around 2022 over how the company used third-party seller data, right? Now, there's no lawsuit and there are no fines that came out of that. However, the agency that actually did go after Amazon was the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, and that was in June of 2023. Now, the FTC slapped Amazon with a case for using these sneaky dark patterns to get people to sign up for Amazon Prime and making it super hard to cancel. Now, I'm sure some of us have fallen into the free trial that magically turns into a paid subscription trick, yeah? Well, Amazon got called out for that, and they just settled the case last month with a whopping $2.5 billion. Amazon agreed to pay $1 billion in penalties and $1.5 billion in refunds for about 35 million people by the end of 2025. I mean, $2.5 billion, that's more than the GDP of a small country, right? And that's just a settlement. Okay, so Amazon's not perfect either, right? But here's kind of why all of this matters for XRP. Now, Amazon faced serious government pressure and huge fines, yet it kind of powered on through and kept building its empire. Ripple and XRP, as many of you guys know, spent years in a showdown with the SEC. So when that lawsuit hit in late 2020, XRP's price suddenly, absolutely tanked. Now, I remember that day. It was like watching a movie in slow motion, seeing one exchange after another delist XRP. My portfolio wasn't pretty, right? But Ripple thought back in court, and by mid-2023, we got that landmark ruling. The judge basically said that XRP itself is not a security, at least when traded on exchanges. And that was a huge win, right? Though the case wasn't fully closed at that point. The point here is that Ripple didn't just fold under the pressure. They kept growing their business, expanding partnerships, and working on their tech, the ODL, the CBDCs, you name it, right? Throughout all of these rough times, just like Amazon kept expanding AWS, Prime, and its e-commerce muscle when nobody believed in its stock. Seeing this parallel, I started thinking, maybe Nick Anderson has a point. Maybe XRP is in that long, boring phase, the one that Amazon went through. Nick pointed out that a specific kind of chart pattern here. Now, if you're not into technical analysis, just bear with me here, because it is called a cup and handle. Basically, it's a pattern that signals a big breakout, and apparently XRP's price chart is shaping up just like that as it nears its old highs. Now, at the time Nick did his analysis, XRP was around $2.70, not far from its all-time high of around $3.86 from back in the early 2018. Right? Now, the idea is that XRP might be forming this massive base, getting ready for a potential breakout if it truly follows Amazon's trajectory. Now, am I saying that this will happen overnight or that it is guaranteed? Boy, nothing is ever guaranteed in crypto. Actually, let me kind of drop a rather quick disclaimer here just to make sure that we cover the bases, because this might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. All right, we had to get that out of the way. You know how it goes. Now, Nick Anderson did caution that reaching those big numbers could take years. Amazon didn't hit the stratosphere in a year or two. It took time, and a lot of people doubted it along the way. Similarly, XRP might actually take its sweet time. In fact, Nick thinks that in the shorter term, like this current market cycle, we might see XRP climb somewhere towards $5 to $30. And honestly, as someone who's got in it around kind of, 15 to, actually I think it was like 11 cents in the very early days back in 2020. Even $5 would feel like vindication, right? $30 would be life-changing. But if I'm aiming for that $100 holy grail, well, I know that I might be holding these coins for a while longer, maybe through one or two more market cycles. And you know what? I'm okay with that. Now, here's something personal. While I'm waiting and holding, I'm not just going to be sitting on my hands. I'm a firm believer that during these kind of building periods when prices aren't doing crazy moonshots, it's actually the best time to get involved, to learn, and to maybe even try some new things in the crypto space. So let me share a rather cool side quest that I've been on, something called Unity. So imagine this. You can turn your smartphones into mini crypto earning machines. And no, I'm not talking about some sketchy mobile mining app that melts your phone. No, this is a legit project that is getting quite a bit of buzz. It's called Unity, and it basically lets regular people like you and me contribute to a decentralized mobile network using everyday smartphones. Now, in return, you earn crypto rewards for helping out. So think of it like, I don't know, the Airbnb of telecoms infrastructure. You rent out your phone's idle time to strengthen a network, and you get paid for it. Now, you know me, I had to try this out. So I actually went ahead and purchased a Unity node NFT, which comes with 200 licenses. Now, it wasn't cheap, right? This node with the 200 licenses, they are kind of limited and they're kind of exclusive. but it comes with the ability to connect up a whole bunch of phones, up to 200 phones to this network. Now, I'm not deploying 200 phones, at least not yet, but I did start a small test right here on my desk, right? I'm hoping that my phones will arrive today, actually. I'm going to be setting up and running the Unity app right here at home, right? They're going to start quietly doing their thing, verifying network integrity, checking for signal strength qualities, all of that kind of nerdy stuff in the background. And here's the best part. I get to choose which cryptocurrency I want my rewards paid out in. Now, naturally, I chose XRP for my payouts. I mean, if I can stack more XRP whilst I sleep, why not? Now, it is still early days, but so far, it's going to be really neat to see how all of this kind of plays out. When my phones arrive, I'm going to be eagerly awaiting that notification to say that the Unity app is live on the App Store or the Google Play Store, and then I'm going to be able to fire it up, add my licenses, and away I go, right? So I'm going to have this little kind of mini, not data center, but my little kind of experiment with my phones right here on my desk, earning crypto as we kind of speak, right? This is sort of a grassroots innovation that gets me excited about the crypto space. It's not just about tokens going to the moon. It's actually about people building new networks from the ground up. And I think that it fits perfectly with this whole theme that we're actually talking about. Ripple's out there trying to build a global payments network. And meanwhile, projects like Unity are building a grassroots telecoms network. Everything is about connectivity and infrastructure right now, whether it's financial or communication. Now, if you're curious about Unity and Unity nodes, then I'll put a link to their rewards calculator and their light paper in the description down below. It's a little bit technical, but it's not actually all that much. But it is worth a read if you want to geek out about how crypto meets real world projects. Just remember, I'm not telling anyone to go and splurge on this. I did because I love experimenting around and looking at the reward calculator. I think the risk rewards are there. Like I said, right, this period is for, at least in the market, is for building and for learning, not Lambo shopping, at least not yet. And speaking of learning, one thing that has kept me sane and informed through all of the ups and the downs is the community. I'm not doing all of this alone. I chat with fellow XRP holders and crypto enthusiasts every day in our free educational Discord server. The link, by the way, is in the description. Seriously, when you surround yourself with like-minded people, it's way easier to zoom out and take a look at the bigger picture instead of just panicking over every little dip. So if you haven't joined us there, come on in, right? There's an open invite. We share the news, the analysis, and all the cool stuff like Unity nodes as well. It's a place to kind of level up your knowledge and get some kind of camaraderie, I guess, on this wild ride that we call crypto. Okay, let's get back to Amazon and XRP and this whole analogy. Because the more that I think about it, the more that it actually resonates, right? Amazon's journey is a bit of a masterclass in slow and steady wins the race, right? It had years of being undervalued and even ridiculed. The Amazon.bomb headlines were a thing after the dot-com crash. But Jeff Bezos and the team just kept on building warehouses, cloud services, refining the Prime model, and eventually, when the world caught on, Amazon stock didn't just rise, it went into beast mode. Now, I can see parallels with what's happening in crypto. A lot of people outside of crypto bubble think that the digital assets are all just a joke. Now, they only see the scams and the busts. Right? Meanwhile, of course, developers are building. Companies like Ripple are forging partnerships with banks and governments. And regular people are finding new ways to use crypto tech. Again, my 10 phones are going to be part of this global network now. Now, there is a saying, right? Bear markets or flat markets are when fortunes are built, right? I would say that it's also when conviction is built. Now, if you're watching this here today, then you probably have the conviction in XRP, or at least a curiosity about it. And the XRP community knows a thing or two about conviction. Now, we've been through some stuff, right? Remember when XRP was stuck around 20 or 30 cents for what felt like forever, or when it pumped to over $3 in January of 2018 and then crashed for what felt like an eternity. Now, if you've held through all of that, then you've got some serious diamond hands, my friend. Now, no story is complete without a twist, right? The twist here is patience, right? The contradiction of crypto is that everyone wants instant gains, but the universe tends to reward those who can delay gratification. right? The Amazon analogy is basically one big lesson in delayed gratification. So if XRP truly is an Amazon-like trajectory, then the crazy past part might actually be that most people will give up and cash out way too early. I mean, Amazon went from $100 in the .com, boom, down to like $6. And if you had sold at $6 after buying at $100, you lost 94%. Ouch. Right. And if you'd hodled from $100 all the way down to $6 and all the way back up to $100 10 years later, then you basically made nothing in a decade. Right? Most would probably call that a terrible investment and just bail. But if you kept holding a few more years after that, $100 became $200, $500, $1,000. And now Amazon is over $3,000 per share, right? Per stock split. But still, moral of the story is conviction plus time equals magic. Now, I'm not saying that XRP will for sure do the same hockey stick growth, but what I am saying is that I've decided I'm cool with waiting to find out. In the meantime, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm going to be following the news, staying involved in the community, maybe even eating a little bit of extra XRP, on the side. When I say eating, I mean earning it up from these smartphones over here, those little experiments that I've got going on. Anyway, I'm going to keep an eye on those price levels that Nick mentioned too. I'll be lying if I said I wouldn't take a little profit if we hit $10 or $20, right? You got to live a little. But, the real target in my mind is the storybook $100, maybe even more. If Amazon could go from an online bookstore to basically the backbone of the internet, at least in commerce-wise and basically infrastructure-wise, could XRP go from the so-called banker's coin, as haters would say, to the backbone of global finance? Well, we've seen stranger things happen, right? This journey for me turned out to be about more than just one coin's price. It reminded me why I got into crypto in the first place, to be part of something that could truly reshape how money moves across the world, just like Amazon reshaped how we shop and use the internet, right? The comparisons aren't perfect, of course, but they give me hope and a framework to think long term, which is so rare in a world obsessed with just quick gains. So if you're still here, then I have a feeling that you share that long-term mindset. So here's my 2 cents for you, or 2XRP. Keep learning, stay curious, and don't be afraid to explore new corners of the crypto world, whether it's following XRP's developments or checking out innovative projects like the Unity nodes. This space rewards the curious and the patient. Oh, and here's a quick heads up. If you are looking to accumulate more XRP or trade crypto in general, then I do have a few affiliate links for a couple of different exchanges that I personally use, right? Blowfin and BitGet in the description down below. Using those links actually helps support the channel at no extra cost to yourself. You've got to keep the lights on after all, you know what I mean? But anyway, if you do use them, thank you in advance. All right, so that's all I've got for this one today. It's been a wild ride of a story from XRP to Amazon to smartphones, earning crypto, right? Who would have thought that those things would all connect together? But they do. And the future is only getting more interesting from here. So if you've enjoyed this little adventure with me and want to tag along for the next one, don't forget to smash the like button, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.